Hit record.
Okay.
It just said recording in progress. You
Yeah,
must
so
have.
you're recording it. So if I can just get it from you, I'm cool with that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so
Totally
much.
fine.
Because I'm gonna try to
Yes.
go in. I'm gonna try to give my best stuff. And I want to record this. So
I know that you will, my friend. I know
mm,
that you will. So,
mm.
hello, my friends. I'm Alexandria Nicole, and you are watching the Empower Hour. It's the show meant to inspire, motivate, and most of all, empower. And today we have Rob Espitia with us, and he has a media production company where he is a specialist here in Colorado Springs. From creative car commercials that air on TV to helping entrepreneurs create content across the globe, he believes that every brand and business deserves to spread their message and impact the world through strategic video content. Hello, Robin. Welcome, my friend.
What's up, Alexandra? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome, welcome. So, yeah, I read a little bit about you, and I'm so happy that you're joining us today. And so, tell me what aspect of your work that you are most passionate about with your company and what it is that you do.
Yes. Oh, what a wonderful first question. Um, once again, just wanted to say thank you, Alexandra, for having me on. Showing me to your audience, and you and the audience will have my absolute commitment to offer the most value that I can while I'm here on this call. To answer your question, my favorite part that I love about what I do, yes, that was a question?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, well, there's a lot of cool things that I like about what I do. And what's funny is, so I've been doing media production for half a decade at this point, but professionally with this company, we just actually passed 3 years in February. And every year that kind of changed a little bit. When we first started getting into the car commercial game, my favorite thing was just like hanging outside of cars going 40, 50 miles an hour and like being inches away from the ground. And I'm a racing enthusiast myself, so just like going fast, it's just like it just like definitely hits me in a way that not many other things do. But as I don't want to say maturity hit me, but as I started maturing more, getting older myself, and my business was getting a little bit older, I started to realize where I felt a huge impact in what I was doing. And it was actually all the work that happened before we ever pressed record. Before we ever
Wow.
press record, it was being able to pull the best out of these entrepreneurs. It was being able to open up their minds onto the possibilities of what could happen. And the pressing record and the editing and the distribution, all of that is just execution from the dream and from the vision that was created before we ever created a set. And
Mm.
so I can honestly say that that is still my favorite part. And I don't know if you can relate to. I know we've had plenty of strategy meetings. We've had some amazing conversations, and haven't even seen me with a camera yet. You haven't even seen me with one yet. So, yeah, everything that happens before you press record, in my opinion, not only just makes or breaks the video, but makes or breaks the experience, and it just creates the whole thing.
And I completely agree with you. Like culture media, it is an experience. And it's funny because when I first saw your video, and I was most connected to the fact that we have a lot of the same language and we align in the aspects of why we do the work that we do and the things that
Mm-hmm.
drive us. And
Mm-hmm.
that's about adding value and serving the people around us in our community. And I loved that about you. But it wasn't until we actually started to kind of cultivate our partnership and
Mm.
having these discussions, and you broaden my horizons even on thoughts about like the film and the approaches and ways to handle it even before we haven't we're still so far in pre-production, but you
Yeah.
just like the entire experience with you is already wonderful. And like you said, I haven't even seen you with a camera yet. So
Mm-hmm.
so you can definitely tell that you love what you do and you love the human aspect of it and the story and the connecting. And that's one of my favorite things about you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much,
I think you
Alexandria.
definitely live in your calling. I did not know you were an adrenaline junkie, though. That's
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah, certain things, I tried and this was a courtesy of my girlfriend. She for my not last year, but the year before, she took me skydiving. And I, myself, I'm the first to admit it, as much as I am, I love adrenaline. I am terrified of heights. Absolutely terrified. I can watch a video of somebody jumping off a plane and like my heart rate goes to like 120 BPM just
Oh my
watching this video.
gosh.
And so, it was a little bit different though, because, when I was on that plane and we were going up in the sky, and for one, I'm like, man, this is really shaky compared to the commercial planes that I've been used to. And we're
Mm.
going up, those nerves kind of start settling in. But, at the same time, and it's funny you mentioned the whole thing about partnership. There was a part of me that wasn't afraid, and it was because you have to do tandem jumps like now in today's time, and you have to do a couple tandem jumps, meaning you're strapped to somebody else, you're strapped to a professional before you do your own jump. And as scary as it still is to hop off thousands and thousands of feet in the air, um having a partner, having somebody who it's like, hey, it's both of like it's in our both best interest to land safely with no injuries, then it kind of just made the whole experience better. And so,
Wow.
not to kind of relate back to why I am so happy to be a part of this podcast and why I love doing what I'm doing. Whenever we meet these new entrepreneurs and we're doing these projects, we partner with them. It's not just a job, it's not just a gig. It's an actual partnership. And when you can align those values together, that's what gets you a safe landing, to kind of tie that back full circle.
I love that. So how have you gotten to the point where you are jumping solo, or
Oh
are you
no.
still
Oh no. No, no, no. No, 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 no.
not even
I
a little bit?
Not
So
even a little
you're
bit. Yeah,
will you
I
ever do it again?
Oh yes, most definitely. I think we might even do it this summer, like as soon as it gets like the weather gets a little nicer. Like it was a fantastic experience, and I'll tell you, so it's like a 60-second free fall dive, and in my experience, it's extremely hard to breathe when you don't have a mask. Because like the guy behind me, he had a mask, he could breathe, right? I just had goggles, so the air is coming at me at like 200 miles an hour. Like you
Yes.
ever stuck your head out of a window, like you just can't breathe.
Uh-huh.
And so,
Yes.
I'm over here like not breathing for 60 seconds, like feeling I'm about to pass out. But then as soon as that parachute, fits, for one, my hips just go flying, my legs go flying up in the air. But then after that, though, Alexandria, it is the most peaceful like descent I've ever had. And I've flown like drones and stuff, because our company, we have multiple drones, and so you can always see kind of like what that bird's eye view looks like. But when you see it with your own eyes and you're just coming down and you see all this land, and you just feel so small in such a big world. And it's just what you can see, not only what you can see, but it's just from what you can see. It was definitely the most peaceful experience I've ever had, for sure. That descent, that was amazing. And
So was it
I wish it would.
liberating for you? Was it liberating for you and your resistance to heights, or is that still very much intact?
I
Your
think it's still very much intact. Just because it's different. Like I'm with somebody who's been doing this for a long time, and we both of our best interests are aligned. Where even if I have my best interests, if I'm not competent to do this, then all those nerves and all those things come up. So no, I don't think that's the case. However, though, back onto the other stuff where my adrenaline stuff, I grew up in high school and college, actually in the automotive industry. I don't know if I shared this to you before, but my very first profession out of school, which is what I went to school for, was automotive repair. I used to be a technician. I used to work on cars, and I worked for Audi, and I went to Audi school, and I worked on the R8, and I got to do really a lot of cool stuff. And I think that's a huge part as to works in a why my mind works in a nuts and bolts type of way. But yeah, and so I always grew up loving that. And going fast with cars, I essentially like almost got into like this team when I was working at Audi to race cars. And so this year, trying to relive that passion again, potentially looking at buying a race car this year and just kind of getting back into that because it's just like a level of excitement that's second to none.
Oh my gosh. So there's absolutely no fear, or are adrenaline and fear kind of like hand in hand?
I think I read this book a while back. I can't remember which book it was, but it talked about how anxiety and excitement, so like fear and excitement, actually trigger the exact same chemical reaction in your brain. It's just the way you interpret things. And for me, I think I've always had that anxiety with certain things. But on the contrary, when it comes with cars, when it comes to going fast, like I love racing go-karts as well. And I'm not like a street racer. Like I've gotten way too many tickets for that type of stuff. I'm way over that. My insurance is up the roof. So I'm not about that anymore. But when it's safe on the track and things like that, like if anything, I just get like this huge level of excitement that I think kind of flips my anxiousness. But yeah, just kind of peering over like a 30-foot, 60-foot ledge or anything like that, not excited in the least.
Wow. I remember having a conversation with my husband at one point about how it's interesting when you're a child, the excitement that you experience, you identify it as excitement, and you're just amped up for
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you're anticipating.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, there's some shift when you become an adult that it turns into anxiety, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't embrace it in the same way, that you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
interpret it in a different way. You're like, oh well, what, I'm nervous, or oh god, you know what I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
simmer down. It's kind of how you tell yourself. But I'm trying to live in a space where when I start to feel the anxiety or the excitement, I just interpret it as such. Like I'm
Yeah.
excited about whatever it is I'm about to face. I still get excited when I'm about to conduct a talk of some sort, or I have some type of speaking engagement. Like I get that excitement, and what happens for me is I'm excited up until the point. I'm excited maybe the first 5 minutes into the
Mm-hmm.
talk, and then
Mm-hmm.
at some point there's like this calm that comes
Mm.
over me, where I just kind of settle into the experience and I'm just enjoying it at that point. Do you feel like that's how it is with racing too? Like you're excited up into the moment, at the beginning of the moment, but then you're just like one with the experience? Or is it the type of thing where you are excited for the duration of the experience?
Well, what a great comparison. If I had to pick one, I would say more towards the first, where you kind of get that excitement because I've been where like whether I'm sitting like at the in the go-kart, it could be indoor, it could be outdoor, in the race car, whatever. And before the lights go off, while everybody is getting lined up, I also used to do track and field when I was in middle school. So I wasn't fast enough though to give myself enough adrenaline. And I remember that when I would be at the starting line, all those feelings, all those emotions, that's when they all just come. But as soon as it goes, I can't describe it in a better way, just like you said, other than being in the moment. At that moment, you are
Mm-hmm.
just being in the moment. You're just like there in that experience. And everything about it is just so like serene. Like I'm such a big fan. I don't know if you can actually see it here behind me, but I actually have a racing simulator at my house as well. Um Here in my
How many
office.
times have I talked to you via Zoom, never realized
Yeah.
that your space there is racing thing?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a racing simulator here. And funny, like I have like a picture from when I won like my competition in high school. I was very, very blessed to enter this automotive competition where it was essentially a challenge between all of the 18 years and younger technicians in Colorado, in the entire state of Colorado. And my partner and I won out of the entire state of Colorado, and we were able to go to
Wow.
state where we got to go to Detroit, and the Henry Ford Hotel, all expenses paid, full tuition scholarship, all of that. It was amazing. It was a huge blessing. And so I have those pictures there. I have all that stuff there to kind of put me back in a moment whenever it is that I sit in that chair.
Oh yeah. Well, make sure that you never lose sight of that, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like we enter our paths and we start this career path and we start to kind of disconnect with the things that brought us joy in our childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to put in time to finding it again and reconnecting with that part of yourself. I love the fact that you are constantly reminding yourself of your joys
Mm-hmm.
and you're never going to forget it. You're buying a race car this year. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just love everything about you. I just can't wait to hear. So tell me about like a community partnership or outreach program that you have either done in the past or you're currently a part of that really means a lot to you, and you hold a special place for in your heart.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, um, three 3 to 4 years ago, I was introduced to this concept, which was the law of 33%, which essentially stated that you should be spending 33% of your time with people who are at the level that you're at. You should be spending 33% of your time with people who are above the level of where you're at. And then you should be spending the remaining 33% of that time with the people who are below the level of where you are at. And this could be in anything. This could be, in any of the big three areas in life, right? Health, wealth, relationships. Some people are in better shape. Some people are, they could use some help on how to do push-ups. Some people have been on video before. They've done marketing. Some people have just started their company. Some people are new to a relationship. Some have been married for multiple years in a successful marriage, right? And by spending time around those types of people, you learn a lot. And me personally, I've always tried to be the youngest and most inexperienced person in the room. I've always tried to do that because I always wanted to surround myself around those who were doing better that I could learn from. And so that changed once honestly in the last year. And so I have two parts to that answer. But the first one, it changed to when I realized that I'm a couple steps ahead in terms of my own journey and like a journey to entrepreneurship or self-development, what you may. And I need to be spending some time, that 33%, helping other people just get to the level I'm at. I can't lie. I can't get them to hire where I'm at. And I can't even do that ethically if I haven't even been there. Right. So there's two ways that I've done that. When I first started doing that was I started doing one-on-one like mentoring sessions and mentoring calls. When I got into this game of video and like marketing and, creating brand messages for companies, there were a lot of other people who were starting out, and I would do a whole lot of one-on-one consultations. I would like just sit with them. I would just like listen to their story, and I would just tell them about my story and how I overcame the challenges that they're currently going through. And so I knew that was one way that I could do it. And so there was this whole community built around that, around like mentorship. Then I also wanted to be around other people who I thought were at the similar level as I was. And so I joined this other mastermind where within those people, there were also some who were kind of a couple steps behind. And so I find it dear in my heart to help those who are trying to follow in the same footsteps that I did, because I have made a ton of mistakes, Alexandria. I've had more mistakes than successes, that's for sure. And not now, some of them hit hard, right? Some failures hit hard, some successes hit harder, or vice versa. and so I hold that dear to my heart. So there's always a part of me where I'm always consistently trying to offer everything that I have, all the knowledge that I have, to those who may not be as far as me, and essentially reaching out to those communities, whether they are local or whether they are online. But just recently, I actually was able to partner with this very nice lady who manages a program that's called Ser Negocios, SER. And we just recently did a project where we interviewed four of like case studies of theirs. And what this organization does, Alexandra, is they essentially, they're a nonprofit and they have relationships with banks like Wells Fargo and all of such. And what they do is they provide tools, grants, and resources to entrepreneurs who are just starting their business, or they are a little bit into it, but they need help on like direction on what to do next. And the thing that I love about this organization, and I've only worked with them in a brief period of time, but I've loved what they're about, is they focus heavily on underserved people. They focus heavily on the Hispanic Latino entrepreneur market. They focus heavy on the Black community. They focus heavy on Black women-owned businesses. And I had a pleasure to meet three of them actually that same day. And so it was beautiful. I was able to meet those connections, and we're currently in works to be able to help them do more, because they actually have organizations and programs of the such across the country.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was definitely a most recent one. It was just awesome being able to hear the stories of these entrepreneurs, how it was that some of them had absolutely no support, right? And I'm sure you can relate, Alexandria, at times,
Absolutely.
we don't get all the support, and so it was really cool. So that's like a program that I've definitely associated myself with, that I really enjoy working with them. And then second to that is being able to mentor others through one-on-ones. But then when I realized, you know, and not to like kind of have like a plug here, but like the power of video, I realized that that was the best way that I could also, instead of doing one-to-one, I could spread a message one to many, because it's so much easier to have all other people like watch my videos. And like, yes, I could do a class, and that's going to be great because there's going to be some in-person vibes. But somebody who's just waking up, or who just had a bad day, or who is struggling on their marketing, or who is having this type of issue, they can watch a video in the comfort of their home, in the comfort of their car. Or even if they're not in a comfortable situation, they have access to that information. And not only that, that stuff lives forever. And so not only will they have access to it, but somebody else is going to have access to it. And then they'll tell the other person, they'll tell the other person. So I found that that is my favorite way to impact and to do like, community-based projects, is one to many. And online is the best way to take that.
I really enjoyed your videos that you just started within. Like I feel like it's been like the last couple of months or so, or maybe even the
Mm-hmm.
last month,
Mm-hmm.
where you have a specific topic that you talk about, and you
Mm-hmm.
just like cram a bunch of information into like 2 to 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and you're conveying your point beautifully, and I don't feel overwhelmed when I'm receiving what it is that you are teaching me in that moment. And it's just on my timeline. Like I'm like, oh, where I post a video, and I stop and I watch it, and I've learned something in that moment. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
there is a power of video, and it does give people the opportunity to learn something. If it resonates with them, they will stop, they will engage, and they will have learned something for free. And you've
Mm-hmm.
just added value to that person's brand, their market, their demographic, just in that small amount of time. So
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy those videos. What was the last video that you shot? I think it was about scripted. That was the last one that you posted, like scripted versus non-scripted?
Yeah. And I'll share, this is a golden nugget for anybody who has a business or a brand or anything that you're trying to grow. Like please, pay special attention here, because we're living in a unique space and time right now where, across social media, if you just were to go back 3 months ago, 6 months ago, every social media platform required their own format of content. And what that means is the type of content that would work on Instagram wouldn't necessarily work on YouTube. And the type of content that will work on TikTok wouldn't necessarily work on Facebook. And all of that is gone now, because we are living in a world where all of these social media platforms are competing for the same thing in the same way. They are all competing for our attention, and they're all competing for it in the exact same way, which is short form vertical content. And so you're 100% right, Alexandra. It's been somewhat recent for me to have been blasting as many videos as I have. I mean, I know that I've put out in the last 2 months, like, at least 20 videos. Like, I'm just trying to flood the market with information and knowledge and any other type of value that I have. And I'm able to do it across all of my social platforms, because all of the platforms are rewarding the exact same content, which once again is short form, vertically shot videos that offer some type of value. Now, that's where people get stuck sometimes as well. They're like, well, I want to put out a video, but I don't know if it is valuable. And this is the best way to find out if something's valuable. There's 3 big formats that come from this. And I learned this from Seth Godin. He's like a world-renowned marketer. I think I've talked to you as well about him,
Yeah,
Alexandria.
you
And
sent me
essentially,
video.
and that value comes in one of three ways. It comes in the form of education, it comes in the form of entertainment, and or it comes in the form of motivation. Those are the three ways, the three best ways to offer value at mass, at scale. And so I've just been trying to do that to the best of my ability, been able to try to, and me personally, I'm more on the educational side. I have buddies, I have partners who, they do the gym thing way more consistently than I do. And, they make some motivational videos. Great. That's awesome. But, me personally, I resonate more with the educational side because I just love learning and I love sharing what I've learned. And so that's what resonates with me best. And so that's the angle that I go all in on, right? I don't try to be something that I'm not. And so that's the type of content that I've been making. I've been distributing across all of my platforms, and that's just like the best way to offer value, which is, again, in the form of education, entertainment, or motivation.
So what all platforms are you utilizing right now?
Yes. So the ones that I'm heavy on, which is the ones that I'm on every single day, is Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram, specifically just because I'm in the B2B world. And so I've for the last couple of years have been finding ways to connect with other people in the B2B space through Facebook and Instagram. Facebook primarily. I just started taking Instagram seriously this year, and then LinkedIn as well. I'm definitely not as I have a ton of connections on LinkedIn, and I'm definitely not putting out as much content as I should. And I just recently started a YouTube channel this year. It's actually like less than 2 months old. And, I had some really good, essentially essentially information and value to offer on my other platforms like Facebook and Instagram. And essentially I asked like, my audience, like, hey, if I've ever offered you any type of value, or here's some more value, because I like included a couple videos immediately. I'm like, here's some more value. If only if you found value in this, I would appreciate it if you could give me a subscribe, because I'm going to be trying to put more long form content specifically just for this platform, for YouTube, just for this channel, to offer you value. And within like the first 2 weeks, within the first day, I had like, 80 subscribers, which was like amazing. It was a brand new channel. I
Wow.
built it that same day, the same day that I made the ask. I built that channel. And I think I'm, I don't know, somewhere like 120 subscribers, like with only like two videos out. That's it.
Wow.
And it's just because like I'm really trying to go in the whole like value first. Like I give away all my best stuff. And the reason why, I still work with certain people is because sometimes they need that partnership, right? They need that person to do the tandem jump with them. Like I could get all the information I need, on how to pull the parachute and how to do all this stuff. But man, I'll tell you, I would really appreciate to have somebody else jump with me right now. I would really
Yes.
appreciate somebody else to take that jump with me. And so that's why I do what I do, and that's why I put out the content that I put out, is because it took me years to learn what I have learned. It took me a lot of trial and errors, and if I can share some of that and do it in a way where it's like no friction, really easy to consume my content and to learn, more about what I do, so you can do it for yourself, so you can implement it in your business. And that's what I'm about, and that's like the easiest way for me to offer value.
Well, what is your YouTube channel called?
So it's the same as I'm the same name across all my social media platforms. It's Rob J Espitia. So Rob J Espitia across all my platforms. I just started TikTok as well. I know that as a creative, I should have been there a little sooner, but I am loyal to my, Facebook and Instagram fam. But I will be continuously putting out content on all those platforms.
Yes, I love it. So, what would you say inspires you?
There's a couple things that I can honestly credit that inspires me. But the first one, and obviously you can, this will show like more of like, this is really all I'm about. Like if I don't talk to somebody about like personal development or business or marketing, like I am the most boring person to talk to, because that is all that I am passionate talking about. Like if it has to do with personal development, has to do with like business or marketing, or it has to do with like racing. I'm a huge like F1 fan as well. I follow the season through and through. If it's not about those things, like I'm probably one of the most boring people to talk to. So those are the subjects that I love diving myself into. And so all of those things inspire me in a certain way. But to share like the line that draws across all of those is that in 9 out of 10 cases, I have never met my heroes. I have never met them in person, but I have watched their videos. I have read their books. I have bought their programs. I have consumed what they have to offer. And all of those things inspired me. And the truth is, my heroes, they don't know about me and they might never know about me. However, they still impacted my life in a way that that I'll hold dear to myself forever. And so what inspires me, Alexandria, is how people are able to influence the masses and benefit the masses at scale, and it's all through using video. And so before I ever picked up a camera, I used to binge watch YouTube videos. I'm like, I love this. And again, like there's, you know, 1 or 2 times where I have ever gone on a phone call or like met in person, you know, like one of my heroes, one of the people who I look up to, and, you know, watch all this content and consume all of their products and everything of. But most of the time, it's without it. And it's the same thing with racing, right? Like I have my favorite drivers, I have my favorite teams, and I watch all the stuff that they do on social media. I watch all the stuff that they put out, you know, on their platforms, but and more than likely, they'll never know about me. But they still impacted me. And so when I realized how powerful that is to influence people from one to many, not only that, like the greatest leaders of history all influence people one to many, right? It wasn't like one-on-ones. It was, you know, and I don't have to name them. I know everybody who's watching this, they have certain heroes. And if you just think about them, they have influenced the world from one to many in group settings. And so continuously to learn in all 3 of those aspects. One, you know, in the personal development world, I love consuming the content, not only consuming it, but actually applying it into my life and being able to share that with others. Things about, you know, topics about business and marketing. I mean, I get inspiration from that daily. I watch videos from other creators that inspire me to make videos. And then that's also what may inspire other people to make videos, is because they see, you know, how a 20-something-year-old kid, like who, you know, came to the US, you know, at the age of 9 years old, is able to like make videos now. Like there's just no rules, like anybody can do it. And so knowing that there are no rules really in this world, and that, not to say that nothing has meaning, but you know, you assign the meaning to whatever it is that you do. That's what inspires me every single day.
Oh my goodness, that's so good. So you mentioned that there's a lot of content and videos and books and things that have influenced your life and
Yes.
influenced your journey. So what is your favorite book
Yes.
that has been so impactful to you?
You know, um I so one of my heroes, when I was, you know, in watching YouTube and stuff like that, they introduced me to the world of Audible, right? On how you can actually listen to all these books. And me, you know, and you can probably get this vibe from me. There's at times where I can speak really, really fast, and that's because I think fast, and you know, I kind of have that type of, you know, deep personality. Um, and so I love consuming all these books, right? And I'm like, man, I could finish a book in like a day, 2 days, you know, if I'm listening to it. And so I started to go ham on the books, and I was like reading a new book like every week, every other week. And you know, this year I've kind of slowed down on the new book thing. I've actually been rereading a lot of the other things, because I'm a firm believer that certain messages hit you hard when you're ready to receive them, only when you're ready to receive them. And so, you know, I go back to some of my favorite reads, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even remember that part of the book. And so now I take notes, and now I take notes on all the books that I read. But if I was to bring up one book, so there was one book that was my favorite, and then now there's one that kind of took over that one. But my favorite book previous to 2022 was called The Go Giver. And it's a book that, funny enough, is very, very popular in the world of like multi-level marketing and like network marketing. Like it's like the first thing that they give like a new recruit and stuff like that. Um, and I realized that like after later on, because everyone who was in this certain space, certain company kept like recommending me this book. And so I read it, and I got to be honest with you, like as I was reading it, there were certain parts that like moved me and like, like made me well up and like, almost like literally like essentially want to cry, because like it just triggered certain things that, really hit my heart and my soul. And so the entire essence of the Go Giver is that, there's go givers. So I love the title of the book, Go Givers, but there's like, the term go getters, right? And, I always associated myself as a go getter when I was in high school, when I was in college. I always tried to be the best student. When I was into the workforce, I always tried to be the best employee. And I would always just do it through hustle, through grit. I just kept going. And the concept of the book, The Go Giver, and by me saying this, it's not going to spoil it. Anybody who is listening to this right now, like, you will do yourself a big favor by reading that book. And even if you have read in the past, by rereading that book, you will do yourself some really good value, some good justice there. But the concept of the book is that essentially life is a cycle of giving and receiving, not taking, but giving and receiving. And just like breathing, you can't continuously just breathe in and just breathe out. And so just like in life, you can't continuously just give value and not receive any. And you can't just continuously receive value and not give any. It just doesn't work. You will be the thing that breaks the cycle if you decide to stop the giving with yourself. And so with that book, a lot of other amazing habits, I feel, have come to it. Ever since reading that book, I have been a heavy tipper, and I'll admit it. Anytime I see it, even if it's just like a walk-in shop, they didn't serve me or anything. If the tip option's there, I have to hit it. I have to hit it. And it's because I cannot let the blessings of the universe, the blessings of God, the blessings of this world stop with me. I have to let it flow through me. And so there's a lot in that book that talks about it, especially if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a sales professional, if you're in that world where, you essentially eat what you kill and you only get compensated based on performance. That is a great book because it allowed me to pull away from the tactics, and it allowed me to think more about how to tap into the universe to not only offer value, but also receive the value that I need to run my life, grow my business, have food on the table, and just enjoy life to the fullest. So that's a huge one. That's like, that has to be like it was one of my favorites. But then I just recently read this other book. I forget the name of the author. I'll probably look it up here. And it's called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And I gotta tell you, like, I'm gonna Google Love Yourself book. Let's see here. It's written by by Kamal Ravi Khan, something like that. It's a great book, great book. And this book had also, just being vulnerable with the audience, like really kind of pulled some of those emotional triggers within me that, made me think about a lot of things, and about a lot of like the self-talk that I've been, doing in my life. And, I had this client last year who I had this really wholesome conversation with, and I was explaining to him. It was actually the client who was doing the Undercover Billionaire Challenge. Alexandra, I don't know if I spoke with you about that. We did a
Yeah,
6-part
you told me
docuseries
about
on
it.
it.
Yeah. He was
It's
kind of pushing the
killing right
limits
now.
on his health.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And he was pushing the limits. And like on the third month, like he was like not going to eat, like unless he closed a loan. Like it was just ridiculous. And, I was having this conversation with him. Unfortunately, I was recording it. And I told him, sometimes like I wake up and like I have this like anxiety where I like need to do something. I need to achieve. I need to perform. And, he told me, he's like, what you have is a gift and a curse. Because when you have that hunger, you will always continue to achieve. You will try to continue to grow, be better than you were yesterday, and continue to just push yourself. But the hard part about that, and this is the curse part, is that it's very, very hard to be content whenever you have that. So it's a gift and a curse, because you push yourself, but then you don't know when to hit the off switch, and you'll break because of that. And then you'll also not be happy because you won't have the most positive self-talk. And so, and for
Wow.
him, it developed to a point where and he's a high achiever and he resonates with that, and that's what makes him happy. And I think that it's amazing. But he's like, I'm at the point where, if I'm not getting some type of win, it doesn't have to be like a deal closed or a new client, but if I'm not winning, I start feeling like a loser. And so I will grind extra hard just to get a win because I'm addicted to the wins. And if I don't get those wins, I feel horrible. And, and that's just like one level of like performance, right? Like ultra performers, which is like a whole other thing that we can get into, which I've done, like read like articles and books about like ultra, high end like performers. But anywho, to go back to this book, love yourself like your life depends on it. The first part of the book is very, very like concept chapter driven. Like every chapter, it has like something very, very good. The second half of the book is his story and how he overcame certain challenges and relationship issues and all of the sort. And one of the things that I loved about the book was essentially, it gives you multiple tactics and ways that you can actually like truly love yourself and like get into the habit of that being a thought that runs on autopilot in the background. Because most often than not, especially in the entrepreneur space, if you're achieving or you're going to bed with multiple thoughts. You're going to bed with things that keep your gears churning and running, right? And so, and honestly, that's good for your performance, like in order to get up and get going the next day, but that's not good for it's not good for your mental health. And I know personally for me, it wasn't serving me that way. And so it was that thing that also was like keeping me up at night and kind of contributing to my insomnia. And so when I learned about, how to kind of love myself, I was able to essentially create this like meditation where I would create this thought pattern of, me loving myself, and it's running in the background. And funny enough, Alexandra, like some immediate things that I've noticed is like I've been able to fall asleep faster than I've ever been able to fall asleep before. I'm the type of guy, I'll be tossing and turning, and my partner, she'll fall asleep like that, right? Like that. And she'll wake up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm still getting comfortable. Like I'm still trying to get comfortable. And so it's helped me kind of fall asleep sooner. But the thing that I love about this book, and I think you would resonate with this too, is he talks about like things like fear and how there's this whole concept, and he's like, I don't care what you call it. You can call it the universe, you can call it God, whatever you want to call it. Me personally, I choose to call it God. I do believe in God. And but he says you have to believe in something because you need to have faith. There has to be some type of faith. And when you have faith and you look at fear in the eyes, you can confidently understand that on the other side of fear is magic. There's no better way to describe it than magic. And also, when you love yourself, then only when you love yourself is when the universe and God loves you exchange. And, I do firmly believe God loves you unconditionally, but he loves you the hardest when you love yourself as well. And so when you love yourself, you are in tune with the universe loving you. And because of that, magic happens. And as soon as I started implementing that, like the weirdest things, Alexandra, started happening. I also like around, myself and my team, I would wake up to like deals being closed. I would wake up to, checks in the mail from like, I overpaid on a certain bill or something. And I'm like, how in the world can you explain this other than magic? There just is no other way. So it talks about that a lot in that book. And I highly recommend anybody to read that, but that has now become my top favorite book.
Oh my God. And I love it. And I think that I'm in that space of trying to balance performance versus self-care. Because I'm the type of person, like we talked a little bit about, my day and what it looked like before we got on the call. And I'm like, mom and this and that. I have all these moving parts.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like sometimes, even with everything I have going on, I'll still feel like I'm not doing enough. Right. So I'm trying to get into this space where I am comfortable with just having a day of doing nothing, having a day of laying in the bed with my laptop and only maybe doing 3 things that have to be done, and then allotting the rest of the day to just relax and turn my mind off. or align my mind with whatever thoughts need to flow through me that I maybe just write down at that point, but don't jump right on it to try to get it done. Because there is that aspect of feeling like you have to be achieving, feeling like you have to be moving the needle forward.
Yeah.
And that lack of contentment is the thing that keeps you achieving.
Yes.
But if you aren't careful, it can become self-sabotaging, right?
100%.
So me and my husband, we do this thing now where he'll book me a room and I'll just go to the room, because now in my life I value silence, because I
Yes.
have kids all the time and I have
Yes.
speaking engagements. And so the thing is, there's constantly sound in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that I value most is quiet.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
I do.
So yes, you have to find that balance or you will burn out, and
Yeah.
you will kind of implode if you don't take care of yourself and take care of your energy and your physicality and allow yourself the space and the grace to just take a break.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so imperative to the journey.
It really is. And if I may add to that, Alexandra, there was this concept that was introduced to me by also someone who I will forever call my hero. I like found him on YouTube, and I hope to one day be able to meet him in person. I've purchased all his books and everything else that he has available currently. But his name is Alex Hermosi, and he is like a top line, like amazing entrepreneur. And he was talking about how and what I like is he talks a lot about business, but also a lot about life, because essentially in this last year, 2021, he like completely moves himself outside of his business. He has businesses that are generating millions and millions per month in cash flow and in profit. And he has like, he placed CEOs, he placed everyone. And all he did for work was like one to two meetings per week was all he did for work. And his entire company and team was remote. So he said that he had like a whole lot of time to just think about this stuff. It's like, why am I doing all this for? And so there was I think it was a relationship coach who like introduced him to this concept, which is there are certain things that are problems to be solved, and there are certain things that are dichotomies to be managed. And work-life balance is not something that can be solved. It is a dichotomy to be managed. You can manage it at best, but you can't solve it. And
Mm,
understanding that and owning that, at least for me in my life, has made it a little bit easier to say, I'm not a robot. I can't just have one day off or break off here. This is something that has to be managed. And at certain times it needs to be more hands-on. At certain times it has to be more hands-off. And things like relationships as well. You can't just solve a relationship. A relationship is a dichotomy to be managed. Right. And I'm a baby in this, but my girlfriend and I, we've been together for, a couple years now, and it's very promising. And, and this is something that both her and I realize and talk to each other about is, it's a thing that continuously requires work.
mhm.
Not just something that you solve like that, like, oh, you buy this, it's done, it's just a dichotomy to be managed. And so realizing what other areas in our lives are there things that like we feel like we have to solve them. And this is a question I ask myself all the time, like I haven't solved this problem yet.
Mm.
Or can I ease that anxiety by accepting and owning that it is not a problem to be solved, it's a dichotomy to be managed?
Oh.
What do you think about that?
Mm. I think that's so good. And I think as you're saying that, I'm thinking about what are various areas that are problems to be solved
Mm-hmm.
versus things that need to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely self-care is something that needs to be managed. That it's not a problem. It's not something that needs to be solved. It's something that continuously you will have to put effort in
Yes.
and hold yourself accountable to pay attention to yourself enough to recognize, okay, it's time for my break, as opposed to me 2 years ago. It's like, man, I'm tired, I'm getting cranky, this is my patience right now, but I got to get this done.
Yeah.
And you keep getting it done until one day you just are a volcano on
Yeah.
anybody that says anything to you that's slightly the wrong tone, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not taking that time to manage yourself, manage your emotions.
Mm.
I'm wondering if like past trauma though is something that goes under that solved aspect of yourself, because that's something that requires introspection. It requires you evaluating yourself, and maybe and looking at some personality traits and some past pains and traumas
Yes.
that are contributing to your current life, your current relationship, your current parenting methods. If that
Hmm.
is something that it goes on the solved aspects of things, or is it something that will is so malleable that it's forever
Hmm.
changing, so it's
Hmm.
something that needs to be managed, like, you know what I
Mm,
mean,
yeah,
like it,
I have some thoughts on that. I have some thoughts on that I'd like to share. And
yes.
so I won't get too deep into it, but my story, like, in like a quick 30 seconds, Alexandra, is, I think I shared this with you. I was born in the island of St. Martin, so it's a very, very small island, in 30-minute flight from Puerto Rico. The island of itself is smaller than most Air Force bases in the country. So like it's a very, very tiny island, probably, no more than 30 miles in perimeter. It's like ridiculously small. And I grew up there my whole life. And I don't want to say it's a, there's certain areas, just like any town, that are considered like third world country parts. And so I wouldn't say I grew up hungry, but I grew up very tough. And at least, when I was in St. Martin, and when I came here, I can honestly say that, my because what ended up happening was at the age of like 7, my parents split up. And I have and and I'll own this and I'll admit this. My birth father at the time, I won't name him or whatever, but my birth father, he due to the way he grew up as well, was abusive, was alcoholic, was drug addict, and like was everything. And the unfortunate part was he was one of the most smartest people I've met, like talented, like naturally talented, intelligent. But because of just going too far on that end, he ruined absolutely everything. And right now, he has nothing. And so, and we're not even in contact. But when I came here to the United States after my mother was able to regain the custody, which was an entire battle in of it itself, I got my stepdad, and who now I call him my dad. Been calling him my dad for years, and matter of fact, just recently submitted the paperwork to have an adult adoption. It was a present we did for him, and I have something I'm so happy to own. But I grew up, and from things from like, I've been in shootings. Like there's been situations where like our family would people were trying to kill our family. There's been situations where we had our house broken into, we had cars broken into, where my younger brother and I were stranded for multiple days on end inside of a hotel room with no adults, with no food, with no nothing. And and we grew up that way, and I experienced all those things before I ever became the age of 10. And when I came to the United States, I realized how much different, for one, the culture is in the United States compared to where I was from. As much as I love my home island, the best word to call it is just savagery. They're just savages out there. Um, and I came with a lot of, I don't want to say like unsolved trauma. And when I started getting into the world of personal development, this was around the age that I was 18 years old. I was starting to learn about how to let go of some of this trauma, right? Like how to just like sit in it, I started learning about meditation. I started learning about digging deep, about, the 7 layers deep why, like ask yourself why, then why 6 more times. And, all of the things, read all the books. And then, and I was working on it, and it was working well for me. And that was like level 1. But what I feel is level 2 is just something that was reminded to me recently, funny enough, by Alex Hermosi, which is, at the end of the day, and I might get some fight back on this. I hope not to sound very radical. This is your audience. Full respect to the Empower Hour audience, everyone, please. I hope you guys know that. Um, but it's at the end of the day, it's all perceived trauma. Because if you were to have a room full of people and you were to ask all of them which of you had a traumatic experience when you were a child, every hand would go up, because everyone is in their own world and they're experiencing this. But the truth is, as society gets more advanced, we start labeling and putting boundaries around what is acceptable and what is not. And so what was once and again, I don't want to have extreme examples, but what is once frowned upon now was a normal practice 100 years ago. And 2000 years ago, it was normal to see, if you were, and this depends on how much you believe in, evolution and all that stuff, but to see your parents be mauled in front of you was just life. That was just life. And so I think as time has gone on, society is trying to set more boundaries, trying to set more norms as to what is acceptable, what is not. But at the end of the day, it really is perceived trauma. And this is really tough because some people, myself included, for a very long time, and I still work on this, associate myself with the trauma. I am this way because I work so hard because I came from this, and because I did all this, and because this happened to me, and this is why this triggers me, and this is why. Justification. But at the end of the day, it's all perceived trauma, and the one who's hurting themselves the most is the one who is holding on to that trauma. And so, when you're able to, let go, and I'm still working on it myself, I'm still working on it. But when you're able to let go and just realize that it's just life, it just is, not because, but just is. There's a certain sense of freedom that comes with it. And I almost want to just say acceptance, just acceptance. And instead of like trying to, positive affirmation my life to a 360, and like this bad thing was really a good thing, instead of trying to do all that work and turn silver into gold, just accept the stone, or just accept that experience for what it is, for that it was just life. And I hope I didn't offend anybody who has like, traumas, and that they, associate themselves with it, because I myself for a very long time did. I'm a hard worker because I'm an immigrant. I'm a hard worker because whatever. Because my dad did this to me. My dad did this to my mom. Like, it's just life.
Rob, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for, first off, for being so wonderful and not allowing your past and your struggles and the things that you have overcome to define you, and for it to create a path that would not amplify your amazing greatness of the man that you are today.
Oh, thank you so much, Alexandra.
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. But I know that we've got 2 minutes.
Yes. What can we do?
Done this commercial yet, so let me get this ad.
Get the commercial. Get the commercial in.
Thank you to our sponsors at the Pad. It is Summit County's newest hostel, built by travelers for travelers, with a special emphasis on meeting high standards for sustainability and inclusion. Their affordable, high amenity lodging with a variety of room types to meet any budget allows our guests to prioritize experience, adventure, and to focus their spending on activities and experience in the Rocky Mountains and the community of Summit County. So, thank you to the Pad for the sponsorship of the Empower Hour.
Thank you to the Pad.
Just so many wonderful, beautiful nuggets. Oh my gosh. So amazing. So for our last question of the evening.
Yes.
What is your favorite candy?
My favorite candy. Favorite candy. So here's another fun fact. I am actually allergic to egg yolk. So
really?
I don't know if anybody here in this audience has ever had any egg allergies or met someone with egg allergies. But it can suck. Because, well, that's perceived, right? Is it sucky? Is it not? That's total perception. But when I was growing up, and my parents, one thing I loved about my parents is they definitely celebrated every single birthday, and every single birthday, it may not have been like a wild party, it may not have been anything big, but what you can count on is that there was a cake with candles, and those candles were how old you were, and everybody's, whether you were upset, you were grounded, whatever, you went there and you celebrated that person, right? And you celebrated the health, and that, I love my parents for that. And so I remember this as a child, I don't remember who did it, but somebody threw my face in the cake when I was young. And For those of you who don't know, like cake batter, like all that type of stuff is heavy on egg yolk.
Oh my
Had an allergic reaction. And I've always kind of like felt that, because so essentially when I was eating certain sweets like pie or cake, or even certain types of ice creams, I would start getting like an itch in my throat, and then my throat would start closing up. Now, fortunately, I've never had a horrible reaction where I had to be admitted or I passed out. I know people who have. um so I always just stayed away from it. But then when I came here to the United States, that was one of the first things that my parents did for me, was they got me like an allergy test, and they confirmed, like, you, sir, are 100% allergic to egg yolk. So a lot of cool stuff has egg yolk. At least it looks good. I can't tell,
Oh
So I
my
just grew up
gosh.
not being on certain sides of the sweets. But one thing I am a huge fan of is chocolate. I love me my chocolate. I love me
Yes.
my white chocolate. I love me my dark chocolate, my milk chocolate with caramel, with nuts in it. I go crazy over chocolate. So my favorite candy, Alexandria, is anything with chocolate.
Me too, my friend. I'm right there with you.
Yes.
Let me ask you a question.
What's up?
So, you know how on Valentine's Day the chocolate cordials come out, the
Yeah.
cherry cordials. Do you ever do those? Where it's like chocolate and inside is cherry and like some type of cream or something. Do you ever get those? They're amazing.
I'll get those, but really the only type, like I've tried, but like my favorite types of fillings really are just like the caramel ones. Like I'll have it with some
Okay.
caramel, but
Yeah.
cherry's not, not too bad, but you know, uh definitely
So you're
I
more
think
on like the Snickers end, you think? Like a
Snickers,
Snickers?
and but I mean I like just like honestly, like high end, like pure chocolates.
Oh, so
You
you're
know,
just fancy out here.
I just like chocolate. I mean, hey, I use my cake budget and my pie budget and my cupcake budget and all that stuff that I can't eat, and I'll just plow it straight into my chocolate.
Oh, Rob, you are so wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. I am
Thank you for
so
having me.
happy. I'm so happy to have gotten to know a little bit more about you as well. Just such a blessing. So, thank you so much, everybody, for watching.
Thank
I
you.
do hope that within this hour you were inspired, motivated, and most of all, empowered. I will see you next Friday. And until then, be blessed. Thank you
Be
again,
blessed,
Rob.
y'all. Thank you, Alexandria.
Thank you, darling.
Bye.
Bye bye.